Alright guys, here we have my 2005 Honda CRF250R that I blew up this spring and would like to resurrect. So I'm going to do just that. We're going to start by pulling the seat off, which will just be two 12 mils on each side. Never mind, 10 mils. Now we can go ahead and pull the seat off. Next thing we can do is unhook this gas tank right here. And then this is just being secured by one 8mm bolt, and then this 8mm bolt, and then the same one on the other side. There's an additional 8mm on attaching to the radiator on each side of these plastics, but I don't have one on the right side, so I only have one on this side. Alright, with all of this hardware removed, we can take this gas tank off. Be sure to turn off this little bleeder valve or gauge right here to the off position so that you don't get a ton of gas on your bike if your gas tank isn't already drained. Once again, just one 8mm bolt holding that little flipper on, and then can pop that gas line off to the carburetor, and this should come out. Boom. Gas tank can be set aside. Next thing, we will drain the coolant. Your coolant drain is going to be on your right side. It will be this bottom bolt on your water pump or your coolant pump. It's a pretty long screw, so you just have to unscrew. It'll have a lot of pressure, and so you can pop off your radiator cap so that you get the maximum amount of flow, and it should just pretty easily come off. Unscrew. Yeah, but it will shoot pretty far. The next thing we're going to be doing is removing the rear half of the bike so that we can get access to the engine and be able to remove it easier. And most of these bolts are going to be 12mm. You have this one bolt right here, and you'll have two bolts on each side right here and right here. And the last bolt holding this top part is your exhaust tube right here. It's just a 10mm that you loosen, and that'll loosen that, and so we can now pull this off. So this is what the bike looks like, and this is just the rear end. Next thing to remove is this top bolt on our suspension, which is a 17mm. And this bolt can be really annoying to get out, so I always like to implement my persuasion device like that. And then you can normally just pull it straight out. If you give the shock a little wiggle or lift up the rear wheel, you can kind of wiggle it out just like that, and then your shock is free on the top. Next, we're going to move on to these three bolts right here. There's a head and a nut on each side, and then there's one at the very bottom attached to the engine. And that bottom one is a 14mm, and these top two are 12s. Now that we've got that top engine mount out, we can start pulling some of the electronics like the spark plug boot, and then come over here. And I guess this isn't really more electronics, but this water pump. This tube is now off. We have one less thing to worry about. Now we can start unplugging our electronics up here, basically that go to our stator and solenoid I found the best way to remove these connectors is just grabbing yourself a flathead and going right under that lip that is on these, and then just pulling straight down. Just like that. Next, we will remove our clutch line, which will just be 8mm bolts right here and here. You're going to have to remove this oil cap right here in order to access this screw. Now that we've got those two screws removed, it's pretty straightforward. All we have to do is grab this and then push it towards our engine, and then it'll pop this little this bigger end out of our clutch, and so this is now off of our engine. Now we can remove this 8mm bolt holding this line for our coolant off of our engine. It's just this one screw right here, right on our valve body. While we're on this side, we can also remove this 12mm nut holding on our kickstart, which was not tight at all. Next thing we can do is grab an 8mm Allen key for this right here to remove our brake line, which I just let hang right off to the side. That way we can get our engine straight out. Just like that, this bolt comes out, and this will just fold down to the side, just like that. Next thing, which I probably should have done before I dropped this suspension, is get this master link off of our chain. Looks like we're going to do it the good old-fashioned way with just a flathead screwdriver and a little pressure. I'll get this master link right off. Just like that. This will come off. Right here. Now that I have better access to this, I can just push this master link out, which will release my chain. I'm pretty sure the last thing we need to do before getting all of these engine mounts out is pull this carburetor off. So we'll do that really quick. All it needs is a flat screw or a Phillips head screwdriver. It just goes right up there. You just unscrew it from the boot and it'll just pull straight out. Which actually, before we finish pulling that out, we need to remove the two lines going up to your throttle. We just have one screw holding this plate on right here, which does not look like a OEM screw, so that's always a great sign. But this will reveal the two lines going up to our throttle up at the top, which we can now remove. Now that we have our plate off, we can remove this top one just by unscrewing this on this side, and then flip this washer, this locking washer, up and out. That bottom one's free. There we go. This one will just flip out like that, and then this bottom one do the same thing. Now that is everything unhooked from the carburetor, this carb will just pull straight out as long as you've unplugged your electrical connector. And here is your CRF250R, which, that's not a great sign. There's some metal shavings, some giant metal shavings right in the carb. That's what you would call less than ideal. So we're probably looking at a dropped valve, which just means that one of the valves came loose in the valve body and dropped into the cylinder, which probably means that my cylinder wall, cylinder, and valve and head are all junk, which is not great. Now we can move on to 1, 2, and then 3 engine bolts. These two are 14s, and then this, I think, on the other side is a 21 millimeter. It's this guy right here. We can quickly remove these ones. Now we've just got this big one to get off, which will actually end up pulling this frame, so we'll only have this and on I lied. This is a 22 millimeter bolt. There we go. For these smaller ones, I'll just get a mallet and whack the ends. But for this big guy, I like to get a 1/4 inch extension like this and just push it right on. There's a little hole on it, and this will just thread right through. And just like that, you can see the engine visibly drop. Now this engine should come straight out. And what I remember from the last time is you want to pull these two 10 millimeter bolts to take this cover off of the valve so that you have a little bit more wiggle room on pulling this out. But this will come straight out. You also have a gasket right here on your cam chain. Looking at the cam, it looks pretty good. So I'm getting more and more worried that it is something pretty bad. And just like that, we have an engine out of our bike. Wow. That thing, it's not light, it's not easy to maneuver. Basically, what I had to do was lift it up, rotate it towards the bike, and then tilt it, twist it, pull it straight down, and then up and out. Which obviously sucked. Start tearing this top down. 4 10 millimeter bolts holding our camshaft in place. Which actually, now that I say that, we need to relieve the tension off of the camshaft or off of the timing chain by relieving it from that hole right there, which you just need a flathead for. Now that we have all 4 bolts removed, we just have these two 8 millimeter bolts on this side to remove, and then this head will come off. All right, now with all of those nuts and bolts, we can remove this head, which will be pretty exciting to see what happened. Wow. Wow, that is, holy cow. Holy cow. Oh my gosh. Holy cow. That's rough. Wow. Let's see this. Yep. Valve dropped